If the trusted authorities believe in a thing that's untrue, the public has almost no chance to believe otherwise. Some people think, of course masks work. Why do you think doctors wear them? When in reality, it's based on ritual and not on science. Another reason false ideas catch on is that rituals tend to create cognitive biases. A cognitive bias is a systematic tendency that leads our thinking away from rational judgment, even when presented with proof that what we believe to be true is not actually true. We become so ingrained in our belief that anything that doesn't fit our model of perception is often belittled, fought against, or ignored altogether. Our minds tend to work like a puzzle. If we come in contact with a new piece of data that fits, we add it to the puzzle. If the data doesn't fit, we tend to discard it and throw it away. This puzzle picture we're creating works at lightning speed, and we normally don't realize it's happening. In the case of something highly emotionalized like mask wearing, something called a self-serving bias gets ramped up 1,000 times higher. A self-serving bias is a tendency to focus only on information that enhances the belief that we are right and rejects any information that we believe is incorrect. If a very smart person develops a self-serving bias for something that's not true, they can become world-class at teaching and defending something that's not true. Our minds are always looking for things to affirm that we are right. So we actually have to proactively fight against this tendency because it can lead to dangerous selective perception and make our minds miss all of the contradicting information that can be incredibly valuable for us. In order to see all of the data and come to a more accurate conclusion, I have to come into the research knowing that I have a cognitive bias and proactively look for data that proves me wrong. It's not always a comfortable thing to do, but it's necessary to have a well thought out, rational judgment. Especially in times of high emotion, it's more important than ever to develop this skill. If you're willing to be wrong, you'll be able to learn things that are outside of your biases. This will help you to make more effective decisions based on logic and not on fear. Another reason false ideas catch on is that cognitive biases are contagious. The need to fit in and be accepted is a basic human instinct. According to an analysis in Frontiers in Psychology, the social aspects of the human brain are always working to negotiate and navigate social environments. And when you're placed into a social construct, whether you were born into it or you buy into it, it creates the foundation for a groupthink to occur. Groupthink is a psychological phenomenon that manifests within a group of people where the desire for harmony or conformity in the group results in irrational or dysfunctional decision-making. Right or wrong, you catch the belief from the group and it deeply infects your thinking. The groupthink becomes the unconscious driving force, and ideas to support the groupthink are spread. For example, even though the data shows that wearing a mask is ineffective and even dangerous, catchphrases like, "It's an act of love," "It's just a small sacrifice," "It's not about you," and "Stop being selfish" are spread to affirm the belief of the group. It doesn't matter that it's irrational. The cognitive bias of the group makes it incredibly difficult to think otherwise. And it's not that statements like these are made with malintent. In fact, they can be made with great empathy and a desire to help the cause. But when the beliefs are born out of a self-destructive cognitive bias, it can easily take on a life of its own and breed irrational behavior. Again, this happens with very intelligent people all the time. Just take a look at researchers at Harvard University, for example. They recently published a report recommending that you should probably be wearing a mask to protect yourself during sexual situations right now. These researchers aren't just being strangely freaky. They really believe that they are helping the cause. And guess what? That advice is going to lead countless people to wear protection downstairs and upstairs as well. Not based on logic, but based on the influence of the groupthink. And with the spreading of irrational ideas, there's an additional phenomenon that occurs today more than ever. With the groupthink extending to celebrities and influencers, the power of celebrity politics is even more intrusive today. Celebrity politics is the act of a prominent person using their fame as a platform to influence others on ideology. Whether that ideology is wrong or not, other people tend to be more influenced by celebrities because narratives often persuade more than factual data. So when your favorite celebrity issues a mask challenge to encourage more celebrities and the public to wear their masks, it creates a tidal wave of bandwagoning behavior. One celebrity posted, quote, "We know wearing a mask can make it hard for you to breathe, but it's more about protection than comfort," end quote. But not being able to breathe normally is not an issue of comfort. The discomfort of covering your face is your body telling you that this is wrong and dangerous. But cognitive biases, groupthink, and celebrity politics can kick your logic right out of the window. There are other reasons why false ideas catch on that have to do with ulterior motives, fear, passivity, and more. Even many health professionals with good intentions have already accepted the prevailing beliefs regarding viruses and the effectiveness of masks, and their unconscious cognitive biases have them only looking for evidence to support their belief. It takes a huge amount of courage to look at the evidence that proves you're wrong, especially when you've publicly shown your belief in the wrong thing. It takes a huge amount of courage to say, you know what? I didn't do my due diligence and examine the data. I didn't look at all sides of this. I was wrong. I'm sorry. Now, let's talk about how we can make this right. We may think we've come a long way since the theory of miasmatic illnesses or bad air being the cause of disease. Yet today, millions of people are being told a very archaic belief that you must suffocate yourself in order to save yourself. The science clearly disproves the effectiveness of masks, especially for the general population. And by now you might be wondering, what else is being misrepresented or ignored in the messaging to the public? And what can we actually do to protect ourselves and our families? So let's shift gears for a moment and talk about what really works to protect the health and well-being of our citizens based on real clinical evidence. Now, what I'm about to share might be a little bit staggering, but there are massive pandemics every single year that most people don't know about. For example, the World Health Organization reported that upwards of 650,000 people die every single year from a specific infectious virus. And it's not the coronavirus, it's influenza. The same influenza that most of us see is not a big issue. The same influenza virus that conventional medicine keeps making drugs for. Up to 650,000 people's lives are lost from it, not just in a single year, but every year. And that's only counting the deaths related to the respiratory effects of influenza, and not even including the deaths from influenza-related seizures, organ failure, and more, which would add tens of thousands of more deaths on top of that. Thousands of people who take the supposed flu prevention drugs every single year still die. And the truth is, conventional medicine hasn't remotely figured this thing out. There's something that's been around killing millions of people for decades. Why on earth would we logically believe that COVID-19 will be any different? That in a few years we'll have a drug to protect us? A cognitive bias might tell us that it's different because the flu is tricky. It mutates. It keeps mutating every year. But peer-reviewed data in the journal Cell stated that COVID-19 has already mutated repeatedly, and it will continue to do so because that's what viruses do. That's how science works. But we still keep taking illogical approaches instead of paying attention to the data staring right in our faces. Do you want to know the connecting factor between the majority of people who succumb to influenza and the people who succumb to COVID-19? The vast majority of people who experience severe symptoms or even pass away from either of these infectious diseases have one or more pre-existing chronic illnesses. Some of the most recent data we have shows that nearly 90% of the patients who passed away with COVID-19 in New York City had at least one pre-existing chronic disease. This means their pre-existing disease and COVID are comorbidities. A comorbidity means that there are multiple illnesses that may be the cause of or strongly related to the cause of death. A study published in the Journal of the American Medical Association analyzed the data of COVID-19 patients in New York City and uncovered that the most common comorbidities were hypertension, diabetes, and obesity. Even though politicians and the sensationalized media make people believe that this virus is indiscriminately taking people's lives, the truth is that approximately 9 out of 10 people who pass away with COVID-19 already had a chronic disease that pre-subjected them to an abnormal immune response. Why does this not raise a huge alarm for us? Effective science doesn't look at this data and say, we just need to put superficial masks on people with chronic illnesses and wait for a couple of years to give them a drug that will save them. No, effective science says, clearly, the most susceptible people are those with chronic illnesses. Let's actually help them to improve or even eliminate those chronic illnesses. Let's get to work right now to get our citizens healthier. Obesity, heart disease, and type 2 diabetes are the leading issues that make our citizens more susceptible to a viral infection. Fixing these things and truly helping people with facts and not fear brings up another inconvenient truth that was recently published in the Journal of the American Medical Association. A 2018 peer-reviewed study found that poor diets are the #1 cause of poor health in the United States. Most of our country's chronic diseases are preventable and even reversible. The data shows that our food is the biggest issue, and this is something that we can fix. Do you really want to know why America was hit so hard by COVID-19? America is arguably the sickest and most vulnerable industrialized nation in the world. According to a recent CIA report, America has the highest rate of obesity of any nation with more than 40 million people. Right now, the United States has almost 200 million people who are either overweight or obese. And we have almost 125 million people who have lifestyle-related diabetes or prediabetes. We can't keep pretending this underlying problem doesn't exist. And we can't keep on pretending that this is something we can't fix. Instead of addressing what's truly our greatest health epidemic, the thing that takes millions of lives prematurely every year, and the thing that makes our citizens more susceptible to all of the infectious diseases that go around and will continue to go around, instead of finally addressing these issues with intelligence, people deflect and use other cognitive biases. Well, we can't just get people healthier overnight, and we definitely can't improve their immune system overnight. Yet again, the data shows that this belief is unequivocally untrue. You absolutely can improve someone's immune function that quickly, and you can absolutely demolish their immune function just as fast. If we look at the immune response of the millions of people who contracted COVID-19 and had mild symptoms or no symptoms at all, it wasn't a mask or magic drug that did the job. It was their immune system. It simply did the job that it's evolved to do. Our immune system has an array of very dynamic, highly intelligent weapons at its disposal, including cytotoxic T cells, interferons, B cells, and more. But what's of special significance against the coronavirus are our NK cells, also known as our natural killer cells. Our natural killer cells are so effective at killing coronavirus-infected cells that many pharmaceutical companies are scrambling to create vaccines that specifically manipulate your NK cells as a cure for COVID-19. In fact, the FDA has already cleared an experimental drug for natural killer cell-based COVID-19 therapy. But as usual, our conventional system that allows millions of people to die from preventable illnesses every year is looking at things through the lens of disease and pharmacology and not through the lens of what actually makes people healthy. We can improve the performance and production of natural killer cells in people who are susceptible starting now. We don't have to wait. However, the conflict of interest is that it's generally free and accessible for everyone to do. A study conducted at Appalachian State University found that simply going for a short walk boosts immune parameters, most notably for your natural killer cell blood counts. And data published in the journal Psychoneuroendocrinology found that sleep deprivation directly reduces the production and performance of your natural killer cells. Getting good sleep is more important than ever right now. But how many times have you seen anyone on major media tell you that? Yet another study, this one published in the peer-reviewed journal Stress and Health, found a significant correlation between the capacity of individuals to cope with daily life stress and their NK cell activity. Folks who don't cope well with stress have significantly lower natural killer cell activity. How has most people's stress management been through this experience? You already know the answer to that. And of course it's been terrible. All we've been fed when we look at major media and social media are reports reaffirming that there's nothing you can do about this, but suffocate yourself with a mask and hide out in your home. The truth is, you need to look at the basic laws of physiology more than ever right now. Your immune system needs oxygen to thrive. Yet for those who even have the courage to go outside in the open air, they're wrapping their faces in material that obstruct their breathing, not because of science and logic, but because of fear. A study published in the BMJ demonstrated that the fear of COVID-19 transmission in an open-air environment is illogical. you are almost 19 times less likely to contract the virus outside than by staying indoors. Scientists at the International Laboratory for Air Quality and Health at Queensland University of Technology stated that, quote, outdoors is safe, and there is certainly no cloud of virus-laden droplets hanging around. Firstly, any infectious droplets exhaled outside would be quickly diluted in outdoor air, so their concentrations would quickly become insignificant. In addition, the stability of the virus outside is significantly shorter than inside, so going outside is not a problem. It's safe to go for a walk and jog and not worry about the virus in the air, end quote. Going outside in the fresh air with a mask on is like, well, going outside in the fresh air with a mask on. It's not one of the shining moments of human advancement, but we can smarten up right now and stop acting like aliens on our own planet. Your immune system also needs the right nutrition to thrive. Your immune system, the thing that actually kills coronavirus, influenza, and every other pathogen that you come in contact with, guess what it's made of? It's made of the food that you eat. Every cell in your body, including your immune cells, are literally made from the food that you eat and the water that you drink. Yet you'd be hard-pressed to find an immunologist who's well-educated on nutrition, even though food is literally what makes your immune system. But that goes for every other field in conventional medicine. Being that your heart is made out of the food that you eat, you think that cardiologists receive a sufficient education in nutrition, but they hardly receive any at all. Can you start to see what's wrong with this picture and why heart disease is the #1 killer in this country every single year? Right now, make sure to eat plenty of real food and make sure to get in an array of micronutrients and omega-3 fatty acids. A study published in the Journal of Leukocyte Biology found omega-3s appear to enhance the function of humoral immune cells that are responsible for your body remembering a virus and building up a long-term resistance to it. Your immune system also needs sleep to thrive. During sleep, your immune system works to replenish immune cells and repair your immune-related organs. Research conducted by scientists at the Mayo Clinic found that people who don't get quality sleep or get enough sleep are far more likely to get sick after being exposed to a virus. Even though the vast majority of people who experience severe symptoms or even lost their life with COVID-19 infections had one or more pre-existing chronic diseases, another common deflection point is that perfectly healthy people die from it too. Unfortunately, this is true, but we look at it in a way that disempowers us. First, it causes us to justify the deaths of the other 90% of people who weren't, quote, perfectly healthy. It's like 18 people with chronic diseases are drowning, and 2 people without chronic diseases drown along with them. When their lives are lost, we say, 2 of those people were perfectly healthy. But in reality, all 20 could have been saved if we were doing the right thing to help them. Second, it doesn't matter how healthy someone appears to be. If you're sleep deprived, nutrient deficient, or excessively stressed, any of these things can increase your incidence of infection, increase the duration of illness, and increase the severity of an illness as well. None of us are immune from the basic laws of human physiology. For example, though it seems invisible, excess stress can be absolutely devastating to your immune system. Data reported in the Journal of the American Medical Association Internal Medicine reported that upwards of 80% of physician visits are for stress-related illnesses. While in another study published by the American Academy of Sleep Medicine, researchers affirmed that just one night of sleep deprivation can derange the immune system and increase your likelihood of infection. We have basic human needs that must be met, and this is our opportunity to help our communities to get educated to effectively meet them. What if every message to wear a mask was replaced with, or even coupled with, advice from health officials to help to reduce stress? Why stress management is essential in reducing your risk of infection, and provide some clinically proven stress management practices for everyone. What if every message to wear a mask was coupled with advice from health officials to make sure you're getting enough sleep right now? Why sleep is essential in reducing your risk of serious infection, and provide some simple, actionable steps that people can use to make it happen. With the motivation people have had to stay safe, we could have revolutionized our society by now. But that's not what we did. And that's why it's up to us to make this message go viral. When we hear a story like the origins of the beaked medical mask, we tend to think that it was so primitive and that we all have it figured out now. But every single day, we have new discoveries in science that have overturned long-held beliefs that were simply not true, unsubstantiated, and even outright dangerous. Arthur Schopenhauer stated that all truth passes through 3 stages. First, it's ridiculed. Second, it's violently opposed. Third, it is accepted as being self-evident. We need to transition through these phases quickly right now because millions of lives depend on it. Our children's lives depend on it, and our future depends on it. The next infectious disease is right around the corner, and the next one after that. Despite rapid advancements in medical science, our immune system is still the main weapon against infections. And if we don't fix the culture that's damaging our immune system, we'll continue to lose lives unnecessarily. The beauty of science is to be able to ask questions, to think from multiple perspectives, and to come to well thought out conclusions for ourselves. It's time to put facts over fear and to help our families and our communities to get healthier. We can no longer allow ourselves to be divided. We can no longer allow ourselves to abandon reason in the face of uncertainty. And we can no longer allow ourselves to abandon our humanity in the face of fear. It's time to implement real solutions for our citizens. And it's time to change our world for the better.